Good morning. How's everyone today? I want to thank you all for joining us for our COVID-19 video update on August 14th of 2020. In the city of Gary, we continue to fight against the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Under Governor Holcomb's Back on Track Indiana plan, the state remains under stage 4.5. We are nearly at the end of the plan, or at least we thought we were, but recent events or increases in our numbers have moved the governor to keep us from moving to the final stage of the plan, and certainly the same exists for us here in the city of Gary. We're going to continue to follow the governor's order closely, and we will remain at stage 4.5. Early next week, I will take additional steps to protect our community, our houses of worship, and our businesses, as well as recreational venues. In Gary, recently we've had a mixed bag of results. There have been days, certainly in the past few weeks, where we've seen low single-digit increases in the number of COVID-19 cases. And other days we've seen double digits increases, including 2 days where we had 20 and 26 cases respectively. Tragically, we've also seen a number of our family members and friends who have succumbed to the disease. As of yesterday, City of Gary has lost 72 lives to the COVID-19 case. I'm going to speak about a couple specific events that have taken place most recently and probably more significantly, certainly with the warmer weather, is our decision to open the area beaches. The city today will partially reopen our beaches. Parking areas will be limited to 75% capacity. Also, 75% capacity will be applicable for our shelters and the rest of the park. In addition to that, social distancing and face masks will be required in areas where social distancing is not possible. Gary Police and the Lake County Sheriff's Office will be patrolling the beach areas and the parking lots. Once the parking areas are filled, we will limit or discontinue persons being able to enter the park area. Also, we're going to step up our enforcement efforts in the residential areas. The towing and citation fees will be instated. Citation for parking in a restricted area rather, that being a residential area, is $155. The towing fee is an additional $180, and just for the record, storage is $30 a day with a $50 release. In other words, it would be extremely beneficial and just wise for persons not to gravitate to the neighborhoods in an attempt to try to circumvent the restrictions that are placed on our parking areas or our common areas of Marquette Park. For safety purposes, we recommend that swimming only in guarded areas where we do have lifeguards. This partial reopening plan will remain in place until Labor Day, at which time our beaches will close. We will continue to keep a close eye on the activity, and without question, if we determine that persons are not able to govern themselves accordingly and to adhere to the restrictions that are in place, we will close our beaches again. We also want to talk about a recent event that occurred in our Department of Sustainability and Environmental Affairs. This week, myself, along with 200 mayors, called on the U.S. Senate to include financial assistance for our municipal governments in the U.S. Senate CARES Act plan, which is part of the federal government's COVID-19 stimulus package. Every city, town, and county leader in the country has been affected and will continue to be affected by the tremendous drops in revenue because of the damage COVID-19 pandemic has caused on our local economies. That revenue that we are used to is used for everything from infrastructure to street improvements to city employees and keeping our fire and police departments running. City of Gary definitely needs all of its resources and much more. This COVID-19 relief bill that the Senate is debating will help us continue to run our city. Also this week, the Gary Common Council approved a resolution from my office on climate resilience and recovery. The idea is to reduce Gary's greenhouse emissions in accordance with the goals agreed to by the U.S. Climate of Mayors. I am a member of that organization, and I know firsthand how critical it is for us to protect our environment and for us to protect our natural beauty resources. The resolution calls for the Climate Action Plan to set goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to meet them. There will be more information about this initiative coming soon. Lastly, before I bring up Dr. Walker, I also want to mention that Monday evening, we all in this area and some areas adjacent to us experienced the impact of a pretty devastating storm. To that extent, there are a number of persons who continue to be without power, as well as a number of areas that have been impacted severely by that storm. I want to make it clear that I've been in contact with the governor's office as well as the Department of Homeland Security in search of additional resources to bring into the community. But as it stands right now, we have not, at least according to the Department of Homeland Security, met the threshold that allows for this area to be designated as a federal emergency or a disaster area. We will continue to obviously address them with our resources in-house, as well as utilize the assistance of in-kind vendors and the Lake County government complex and their resources to address our issues. But without question, this was extremely devastating to our area, and from our perspective, it certainly is a disaster. If there's anyone who's in need of emergency services such as food or housing, they should contact the Gary Mayor's office for direction, and Cynthia will gladly be able to share any information that we've acquired up to this point to assist in that, in that venture. Next, before I get off, I'd like to introduce Dr. Walker, who's going to share some more specific numbers about the COVID-19 cases and the impacts that it's had on our city, as well as members of our complete census count committee that have joined us today to make a brief presentation on the present status of the census, as well as the need to continue to take it as seriously as it is, as those services and resources certainly help us as well to continue to run the city. Without further delay, we'd like to bring up Dr. Walker.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the mayor. I'd like to thank the citizens of Gary for the opportunity to come before you and speak. Over the last 4 months, I've had several opportunities to come and stand before you. I've actually gotten quite comfortable doing that at this point. I want to take this time, I love doing this. I want to make the mayor a little bit uncomfortable by thanking him. He hates that. But the reason why I want to do that is because over the last 4 weeks, the city of Gary and the state and the country as a whole has seen some moderate increases in the number of COVID cases. And I will tell you that as a health official, I'm not doing anything special. I think I'll make the type of decisions that any health official would make. But sometimes politics and government can be a hindrance to making public health decisions. And the mayor, to his credit, has allowed me to do my job so that we can try to protect the citizens of Gary, so I'm thankful for that. I want you to think about this. This is late summer. So for any respiratory disease, this should be the absolute best time where we're reducing the numbers for respiratory diseases, right? This should be our absolute lowest numbers. If you look at New Zealand, if you've heard about New Zealand's had 0 cases over the last few weeks because they've taken a national approach to the things we've tried to do in Gary. They've done nationally, and they've eliminated new transmission in not only New Zealand, but a couple of other Scandinavian countries. So hopefully the nation as a whole will take a different direction. We'll start to have more of a national plan, and we can try to mitigate some of the spread of this disease. Over the last 3 weeks, a couple of important areas have happened. We have asked for a mask mandate. So Gary was the first in Lake County. I think it was the first in Indiana. And then other communities soon followed. I think that has helped tremendously. Also, I went to the mayor, found the need at the time to try to control the spread by closing the beaches. I know a lot of people, I know that's a controversial thing, but when you have that many people coming into a small area, we had to do whatever we could to try to protect the citizens of Gary. So that was one of the decisions we made, and as we reopened the beach, we've done it in a reduced capacity. Once again, that is to try to reduce the amount of spread of disease in the city of Gary. So today on August 14th, we're going to provide the Gary numbers today, as the state numbers have not been posted yet, but shortly by 11 a.m. you'll be able to go to the state site and see the state numbers. So we're going to, on our site today, you'll see posted the numbers from yesterday. For Gary today, we actually have had 12 new cases as of yesterday. And from the day before, we had 20 cases. So those are pretty decent sized increases. To our credit, fortunately, we've had no new deaths over the last 24 hours, but unfortunately, we've had 72 total deaths. So when you look at an inner city with an urban population, with a high minority population, with high comorbidities, we're looking at Gary with a mortality rate as related to COVID somewhere around 5%, which is quite significant. Then the world average is somewhere around 3.5%. So that's just something to keep in mind. And a number that I can't provide for you, and I'm going to keep driving this point home, is I can't provide to you the morbidity. That is the number of people that have had strokes, that are living with strokes, the number of people that have had renal failure, the number of people that have had seizures, respiratory failure, the number of people that have liver failure. And I know in my family we're affected by that, but now I'm hearing from more and more people who are having family members that are affected by that and will be affected for the rest of their lives, and kind of understanding the long-term implications that COVID is bringing to us. And I want to end on something that I think is really, really important. And that as our kids go back to school, I just want you to think about what resources your school has. And if you thought that your school was under-resourced before COVID, then I would believe that you would think that your school would be under-resourced to return in person for COVID at this point. Now, there are lots of schools that have the resources. They're able to keep smaller class sizes, that are able to keep the students 6 feet apart. I don't know where I've heard some numbers of 3 feet apart, but 6 feet apart, barriers, masks inside of class and outside of class, reduce the amount of changes in the hallway, the teachers change instead of the students. Those are the type of screening. We should be screening before the kids get into the school. We should be screening before the kids get to the buses, right? So if your school's able to do those type of things, then in-person school seems perfectly reasonable. If they're not able to do that, then we definitely encourage e-learning from that point, or some type of combination thereof. And finally, something that really has, I find important, contact sports. I just do not believe there should be any high school contact sports, football, basketball. If you look, the Big Ten, the Pac-10, the Big East has suspended, they've canceled, trust me, they've canceled contact fall sports. Because if you say you've suspended them, it's not like our infection rates are going to get better in January. As we get into cold weather time and people are indoors, infection rates will go up. So those are canceled for 2020. So if you look at the NFL, they have all the resources in the world to continually test and treat. So I'm just asking, please don't put your children in that position, don't put your families in that position. These are very dangerous times. Contact sports are not appropriate for our youth. From that point now, I'm going to relinquish the podium. I think Ms. Nita Johnson will be up next to talk about a very important topic, and that will be the census, as we want to make sure that we are counted, that our numbers are counted, so we can have the proper resources to fight things like COVID. Thank you very much.
Greetings to Mayor Prince, also Dr. Walker, Michael Gonzalez, and gentlemen in the room, and also the citizens of Gary. I am here to represent the Gary Complete Count Committee, which is the census, and I am stepping in today for Dr. Vanessa Allen McLeod. But before I get started, I would like to thank Dr. Danita Johnson Hughes for allowing me the opportunity to volunteer for the Gary Complete Count Committee. First of all, every 10 years, the federal government counts everyone who lives in the United States. It's not too late to complete the 2020 census. The importance of the census is to get federal money for our community. Our community will get money, as you heard Dr. Walker say earlier, for those programs that we need: Head Start, school menu programs, adult education grants, public transportation, roads, emergency services, fire department, hospitals, health clinics, supplemental nutritional assistant programs, preventative health services. So your participation in the census, it builds on our community's progress, and it shapes our future and for our future generations. So just think about this for a moment. You're driving to work, or you're driving to the grocery store, or you're driving to the mall, and guess what? There's no roads. Why? Because you did not complete your census. Do not worry, your response to the 2020 census is confidential and is protected by law. So none of your personal information can be shared. But the reason why I'm here, citizens of Gary, is to tell you about some important updates that you need to know. One of the first updates is the census deadline change. I know a lot of you may have saw it on the news, but they have changed the deadline date for the census, and the census now is the census change deadline date is September 30th. So that gives us a little over a month to get those numbers so we can get those federal dollars. So right now I have my assistant who will be up in a minute. But if anyone wants to have a yard sign in your yard for your home or business, come on up, Javi. You can pick up 1 or 2 signs from the Urban League. And the Urban League office is located at 3101 Broadway, and you can pick it up on Monday through Wednesday from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. So I know a lot of you citizens in Gary will be going down to go pick up your sign, and just feel free. Dr. Vanessa Allen McLeod would love to greet you all and give you one of these beautiful signs. As you can see, it says it's not too late, complete the census. So some of you have been asking, what is the number? The number is on there, and I'll go through that in a minute, so get your pens ready. So thank you, Javi, for holding it up for me, and then I'll call you up in just a few minutes. I love the sign. I love the blue and white. I love the Shape the Future, and this is just wonderful, so thank you, Javi. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to update you on is the Gary self-response. Right now, as of to date, our response for us responding to the census is 46.1. Come on, Gary. We can get 100%. We can do this. I don't want to settle for the national average, which is 63.4. We want to get 100%. So please remind your friends, your neighbors, remind your co-workers. Just remind them to please complete your census. Let them know how important it is. And also, you can go, there's a couple ways you can do this. First of all, you can go online, and so you can go under My 2020, census.gov. Yes, that's right, My 2020, census.gov. The phone number, are you ready with your pen and pencil? You have to find it. Okay. So the phone number is 844-330-2020. Again, that phone number is 219-8, well, I'm sorry about that. The phone number is 844-330-2020. And if you happen to forget the number, you can pick up your sign and the phone number will be on there. So next, I have my assistant coming up, and his name is Javier Cardona. And please bear with him. He is going to do a wonderful, fantastic job, I'm sure. We're lucky to have our youth, and I'm so happy that he's here today, because it is not easy, believe it or not, to stand up here behind this podium. So I give him all the credit in the world for coming up this morning. So Javi, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. I have a couple of updates to share with you this morning. On Saturday, August 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the city of Gary are census penny parades. These are a series of short parades going through our low response districts to make big noise and counter residents who have not yet responded to the census. Our library mobile unit and census workers will be on hand to sign up residents on site. For more details, contact your district councilperson or call the Urban League at 219-887-9621. 219-887-9621. And watch your local news medias for more information. Census workers, my second update, census workers will be arriving at your home if you haven't responded to the census. Don't be scared to say how many people are in your household. The census don't report how many people are in your household. Excuse me. The census don't report to the landlords or any agencies. Census workers wear masks and follow the health guidelines when they visit your home. If you are not at your home, the census workers will leave a notice at your residence with information about the census. The census workers will never ask you any personal information about your social security numbers, or money, or they won't even ask for money or donations. They won't ask about if you're in a political party or your bank or credit card information. The census workers will only ask about your name, your age, your date of birth, your race, and whether or not you rent your house, and who live in your household, and how related you are. Are they related to you? Excuse me. It takes only 5 minutes to complete the census. By filling in the census, you are helping your community. Your response to the census gives you a voice, and your voice matters. Your counts. Excuse me, I keep messing up. Your count, so be counted.
Javi, it was a great job, actually, and so don't feel bad about anything. And I'm certain everyone who saw your broadcast encourages you, mostly because you came out. And so part of rebuilding a community is getting everyone engaged. And, on behalf of the city of Gary and all of its residents, I want to say thank you. You did a wonderful job, and thank you for being here. Before I close, I'd like to cover just a couple things. I'd like everyone to take their phone out. I'm going to take a page out of one of the census workers who's actually a member of the NAACP, Darian's, take a page out of her book. Take your phone out and type in 2020census.gov. Responding to the census is as simple as that. And as Javi mentioned, this weekend, persons from the Census Committee will be visiting the homes of persons who haven't responded yet, based on the receipts or the applications that we've received. They are aware of who hasn't responded based on the ones that have went out. So if you want to very rightfully give them a positive response and that you've already taken care of it, go ahead and do it now. Take your phone out and type in 2020census.gov, and you'll see a tab that says Respond Now. It's a very simple process. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and you can help your city by doing just that. Next, I was remiss, but certainly not too late to mention that our very own Dr. Roland Walker was nominated by the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum for the COVID-19 Courage Award for his work in protecting the city of Gary, even as he has dealt with the virus himself and certainly has been impacted by way of members of his family. So Dr. Walker, congratulations. I think it's a nomination well deserved, and you certainly, we in Gary, hope that you receive the award. But even if you didn't, we're certainly proud that you have been the example of what it is to have courage in the city of Gary in the face of an extremely challenging situation. In closing, I'd like to say that there's more going on in the city of Gary than you probably know. As you've already heard, it's incredibly important that we fill out the census. Along with that comes the impact of doing so, which is receiving federal assistance for programs and services that we so desperately need here in the city. The accurate numbers will increase the amount of resources that we can get from the federal government and certainly help to fund social service programs such as relief for disasters like we're facing now, whether it be the COVID or storms like the one that we've recently faced. It's extremely important that everyone participate and that we have accurate numbers. As I've said all along during this process, if we remain patient and calm and we work together, we can certainly get through this together. But most importantly, together is the approach that we certainly need to take. It's a community effort. City of Gary is absolutely responding. I'm proud of its employees who continually come to work and deal with the situation in some of the most challenging of times. But to that extent, we certainly encourage all residents of the City of Gary to join us in all of our efforts to reimagine Gary, to help stop the spread of COVID, but also to rebuild our city. That's about it for today. We certainly look forward to seeing all of you next week as we share new updates relative to COVID and potential new advisements or directions that we will have relative to this particular disease. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.